I lived a pretty simple life. I grew up in a small family consisting of only me and my parents. I had no siblings, but it never really bothered me much because I had my best friend Karen by my side at all times. I became friends with Karen when I was only 7. One day she moved into my neighborhood and we clicked instantly. From that day onwards, we were inseparable. Karen and I went to the same school and we even got accepted into the same college. Life was good until that one summer vacation when I got to experience something that I would not even wish on my worst enemy. It was mid-June and all the students were leaving to spend their vacations at their hometown. Karen was staying with her grandma for the first 3 days and then would come back to her parents' house. After much insisting, I agreed to join Karen on her 3-day stay at her grandma's. As someone who grew up around tall buildings and honking cars, I didn't know what rural life was like, but I was about to find out. Karen's grandma's place was an interesting one. She lived near Tuba City, Arizona, which was situated in between nothing but dense forests and small rural houses. Something about that kind of environment appealed to me. Amongst all the pressure of studies and exams, and spending 3 days in the middle of nowhere didn't sound like a bad idea. But little did I know what trouble I was signing myself up for. We arrived in town on Monday morning. Karen's grandma made breakfast for us. The day went by pretty normally. Karen and I hung out in the backyard talking about all the memories we had so far that semester. We were just talking and laughing when the door flung open and Karen's grandma came rushing out. She lunged at me and wouldn't let me go. She sounded terrified. I tried to get her off me to have her tell me what happened, but she still wouldn't let go of my arm. Breathing heavily, she explained how she had seen a huge stray dog and it wouldn't leave her alone. At her age, I thought maybe she was just imagining something. She explained that what she saw was something of a mix between a German Shepherd and a lab. It was black and hideous looking, and it had hypnotizing white eyes and a terrifying grin. Although the details sounded pretty spooky, I didn't really believe it completely. We took her back inside and tried to calm her down, suggesting that she have a nap because she wouldn't stop talking about how she could still feel the deep white eyes on her. The next night, we decided to watch a movie. Karen and I were sitting in the living room, and Grandma was preparing dinner in the kitchen. The space had 3 huge glass windows from which you could see the car in the front, the porch, and even the backyard. Inside the room was an 8-seater couch, a small table and TV, and a small wooden shelf with Grandma's DVD collection. Karen and I finished watching the first movie, but there was still time before dinner, so we decided to put on another one. Karen went to take another DVD, but shrieked when she spotted a dog standing on its hind legs on a wooden box outside, staring through the window. Now, in Navajo tradition, dogs are forbidden inside homes, since they're assumed to be the protector of the family in the house. Karen opened the window and shooed the dog away, and it ran back into the forest. The rest of the night went by without incident. The next day, we went to downtown Tuba City to get some groceries. We didn't see any dogs, so the rest of the day was fine. We got home by 5 o'clock. Karen's grandma went to meet a few friends, so she left us on our own. We were pretty excited and were lazing around the living room when we heard some fidgeting with the doorknob, like someone was trying to get in. We peeked out the living room window and saw something really weird. There was that black dog hanging on the doorknob with its paws, trying to unlock it. It looked absurd, and I wanted to laugh, but Karen was really freaked out by what she saw. She rushed to the door and yelled at the dog to make it go away. It worked, and after a few seconds, the dog took off. Karen's grandma got back home a few hours later, around 7. The minute she heard about the weird dog trying to unlock the door, I saw the color in her face drop. She got really worried and started blaming herself for leaving us alone in the first place. It didn't make any sense to me because Karen and I were perfectly fine. It was just a stray dog. And although I found it kind of absurd to see a dog trying to get in the house, we were fine. Later that night, we were tucked in our beds, ready to doze off. Karen and I were sharing the same room. It was around 10 o'clock when the curtain on the side window moved a little. We didn't pay any attention to it, but then we heard a strange sound coming from the rooftop. At first, it seemed like someone was jumping on the roof, but then we heard barking sounds, and then came a bang, like someone had collided with a plastic barrel that they had on the rooftop or something. After a few seconds, we heard the barking sound again. Only this time, it wasn't alone. Instead, we heard a whole crew of dogs barking loudly. Karen was sitting up in her bed, terrified by what was happening. But before we could do anything, the barking stopped. And then we heard someone running, and then the barking started again. There was something odd about the barking. It was not a usual dog bark. It sounded deep and hoarse, kind of like a voice of a person, and this barking just didn't stop. And we figured that whoever or whatever it was knew that we knew what it really was. The thing kept on barking, but would stop every now and then and pant loudly. Horror-stricken by what was happening, Karen rolled up the curtain, and what we saw next is still something that haunts me. It was the same dog from the afternoon, but this time, it looked so much more terrifying and full of anger. Its eyes were bloodshot red, and there were two strange things on its neck. The dog was standing on its hind legs, and that's when I noticed that its feet were completely deformed. They looked distorted, and its nails were about an inch long. Petrified by the view in front of us, we immediately drew the curtains and ran out of the room frantically. We went and got her grandma. She came rushing out of her room, and hearing us talk about this dog thing, the first thing she did was grab her gun, throw some ashes inside, and run outside before mumbling something in Navajo. The next things we heard were loud gunshots and Karen's grandma screaming in Navajo. Apparently, something to the effect of the creature was not at all needed or welcome around their house. I was amazed by her strength, but was also scared beyond any limit and wanted to get out of the house right then and there. But I knew that nothing could be done at that time of night, and I had no choice but to stay. The next morning, we all woke up early because Karen's grandma had invited a medicine man to bless the house and put some cedar around. He prayed around the house and on each one of us with his cedar smoke and a big eagle feather. He calmed Karen's grandma down and gave me an arrowhead and a pouch, which he called a corn pollen. He cautioned me to carry it along with me everywhere for my own safety. The man explained that the creature was a skinwalker, or could be called a yoshi. It disguised itself as a stray dog to protect itself from being caught. He told about how the skinwalkers intend to harm human beings by spitting a deadly fluid and possessing their body and skeleton. I was astonished by these words, but what he did next kind of left me traumatized. He reached over to Karen's grandma and pulled a piece of human skull from off of her shoulder. It wasn't just a tiny piece, but a whole chunk, 2 inches long and maybe a centimeter thick. I went back to my parents' home that day and swore to myself never to return to that town again.